Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dana, aka Blondie Knots here on YouTube, and if you're not new here, welcome back my friend. So if you read by the title of the video already, today we have a very exciting video planned. I am going to be finishing the sweater I started, the Anthropologie Tomato top. I am so excited to work on this more. I know I told you guys I wasn't going to be working on this right now, but I cannot get it off of my mind, and so here we are, we're going to finish it this week. If you are new here and you didn't see last week's vlog, I did start the tomato top and I did go into a little bit more detail, but you only missed the back panel and you didn't miss too much, so I'll catch you up in this video on how I ended up constructing that as I go through it. But basically the gist of it is I saw this top in Anthropologie like 3 months ago when I was there shopping, and honestly I almost bought it because I loved it so much, but it was $118, so I couldn't pull the plug. But I thought, what better idea than to go home, spend the money on the yarn, spend the time to make it, and end up putting way more than $118 worth of work into it
and have my own handmade version.
I have a very small time frame to complete this piece. I gave myself 3 days, so today, which is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then it needs to be done by Sunday so I can edit this and get it up to you. We have a tight turnaround, but like I said, we already have the back panel done, so we're kind of already at a little bit of an advantage. Anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna get right into it because I don't have much free time to be gabbing with you. My butt is going to be in this chair working for most of the day today, so we're probably gonna make some pretty good progress on this piece. Let's jump right into the video and get to making this top. I cannot wait. Okay, so just a quick recap if you were not here for the last video. I am using Coastal Queensland fine weight cotton and a 5mm hook to create this first little ribbing part. And the reason I'm using a 5mm hook is because I really wanted this ribbing to be more of a texture than I wanted to be an actual cinching part of the piece. Because this is an oversized top, I just wanted it to have some cute dimension like the photo had. This ribbing is just a chain of 13, and then I made 12 half double crochet in the back loop for the entirety of the piece. As far as how wide to make this ribbing, I just kept constantly measuring it up to the back panel, and once it measured the same, I knew I was done and I was able to move to the next step of the project. So for the next step, I did size up to a 5.5mm, and I just ended up working the rest of the body portion in the 5.5mm, which was really good because this helped keep the piece nice and flowy and drapey and exactly how I wanted it, because as you know, if you work tapestry a lot, your work can have a tendency to get very stiff very quickly. Okay guys, so as you can tell, it's much later in the evening. Sorry about the lighting, but we gotta do what we gotta do. I do have the bottom ribbing for the front panel done. All I had to do was make it the exact same as the back panel, super simple. And then I went ahead and I did 1 row of half double crochets across the top of the ribbing just to give it like a nice edge and a place where I can work my stitches in and make sure it's the same as the back panel. So this is 75 half double crochets wide at the moment, and we are ready to figure out where our graph is gonna go and all that good fun stuff. So I did go on Stitch Fiddle and make the graph. In case you're at all curious, I think I did a pretty good job getting it pretty close to the inspo picture of what the model was wearing. Obviously it's probably not perfect, but I think it'll definitely be good enough. So I'm excited to see it worked up and how it really looks. But now we really need to figure out where we're gonna place the graph on the front so that it's nice and centered for us. So once you figure out how many stitches wide your piece is and how many rows high it is, you definitely have a better idea of figuring out where the center of the graph is going to be. Where things are going to get interesting for us is because I did this whole back panel in double crochet and we are going to be working the graph in single crochet. Our dimensions are going to be a little bit different because single crochets obviously are not as tall as double crochets. So this is only 35 rows high of double crochet, which is not a lot to work with considering our graph is, let's see, 48 rows wide by 49 rows high. So a lot more rows than what we have here. That's not a problem though, because it is going to be single crochet. It'll fit fine. However, it's going to be harder for us to calculate where the center of that number is going to be so that the graph isn't maybe too low and then we have all this extra weird space up here, or we don't put it too high and we have all this extra low space and now the shirt's super long because we started the graph too high. So So how we're gonna combat that is actually we are going to make a whole nother piece. We're gonna put our ribbing aside and attach it actually at the end of the project, and we are going to chain out 75 because that's how wide our piece is, and then we are going to just work our graph that way. Then we can attach it all in the end, which might sound a little bit confusing now, or you might be thinking like, how is that going to work? It will seamlessly blend. I've done this before. It's not my preferred method, but it does definitely work. So I will share more on that as we go. So if you're confused right now, don't worry, because I'm going to tell you how I do it as we go along. And then once we get the tomato done and we kind of see how big that portion is, we can shape our neckline a little bit more. There's not too much shaping to do there because this is a pretty simple silhouette overall, and we can attach it to our bottom ribbing and hopefully be good as gold on there. The other thing though we'll need to account for as we work this piece is, as you can see on this back panel, we do have this little like open spacing at the bottom because the model in the photo here does also have these kind of like open holes almost in the piece. So the way I did these is I just worked a double crochet, chain one, skip one space, and worked another one. So it was really, really easy to recreate this kind of like open look. And I feel like I gave it a really fun detail that is pretty similar to what we see in this photo. So on the front panel, I need to account for this bottom double crochet area, but we also need to account for these top detail pieces where they have the open stitching here. So I'll need to kind of keep that in mind as we work the piece as well. But that's kind of a problem for later on down the road. Right now, we really need to just worry about working the tomato, seeing where we're gonna fit that all. Technically, if you think about it as like a double crochet to a single crochet, I would think that like every one double crochet equals 2 rows of single crochet, but I'm not gonna gamble that much because we have such like a limited amount of time to make this. I don't want to have to make it and then rip it all back to redo it. So the best way for us to do it is to just work it as a whole separate entity and then connect it all in the end. So we are just gonna jump right into working this tomato graph, which is the fun part. I'm gonna go grab my other colors, which is just going to be red and green, so super simple, and we'll just start working the graph. Grab a coffee, get cozy because we're having a late night tonight and we're gonna work hopefully at least like, let's hope for a third of this graph tonight before we call it, and then tomorrow we should be able to finish it up no problem. But let's see how it goes and see how much we can get done before the end of the evening today. All right, guys, good morning. I think it's a good time for a check-in because I'm at the technically halfway point of the graph. So I figured we could just take a chat about the graph so far and what I think. I have some unfortunate news for it, but such is the life of freehanding. As my graph was made, which is very interesting because this is what it looks like here, but when I actually made the graph, it was way more of a voluminous tomato. So as you can see, it kind of looks squished, if you will. And if you look at the inspo picture, her tomato is like very voluptuous and ripe looking. It looks like a nice one, while mine looks kind of sad. I'm a little bit upset that I didn't just correct this as I was working it, because as I made this, I saw it looking more squished and I'm like, surely it'll all work together in the end. Of course it didn't. So I should have just fixed it initially, but that's fine. I'm just gonna rip back some rows. Right where you see the leafy greens, I'm gonna rip all that back. I'm gonna add a couple more rows of height to the tomato and keep going. When I laid this up next to my back panel, I'm not even at the halfway point of the back panel. So the 2 double crochets to 1 double crochet does not equate into 2 rows of single crochet equals 1 double. In this situation, that's not the case, which actually works in my favor. So that way I can expand the graph and really have no issues with it. So yeah, that's where I'm currently at. I'm just gonna rip these rows back. No big deal, easy fix. Happy to fix it now before I go too far. And then it's a lot more to pull back. I was just about to start the small tomato. So that's why I figured this was a good place to really like lay the work down, assess it, and see what I think. Hopefully this won't take me too long. The progress I've made so far has only been about an hour's worth of work. So I think I can handle pulling back an hour's worth of work. But anyway, just wanted to give you that little update that that's what I'm doing. And I will show you once I correct this, how we edit it and fix it and make it a little more tomatoey. Ta-da! All right, guys. We fixed the tomato. I think it looks way better now. I'm so much more pleased with this outcome. So this was adding 6 more rows to the tomato total. I think it gave it the perfect little voluminous shape I was looking for. It looks nice, cute, and plump, so love that. I did, as you can see, start working the tiny tomato too, just to get a gauge of like how big they were gonna be next to each other, and I'm thinking this is looking good. So really excited about that. That's the only thing so far I've changed about the pattern, so not too bad, but that was definitely worth ripping back and redoing. I think it could even honestly still afford to maybe be a little bit bigger, but this is pretty darn cute and I think I'm pretty happy with it. As you can see, it's still really, really short, so we have plenty more room, which is good because that means we still don't need to worry about those holes we need to create later. We can probably kind of do that once we start shaping the neckline and stuff, which might even be after we finish the entire graph. So this is, again, why I do this whole panel separately, because I would have never been able to gauge where this would have needed to be. So that is our current update. I am actually in major need of taking a break. I need to have some lunch. I've been working on this since I think 9 a.m. this morning and it's now almost 2. So it's time for a break. So we'll pick this up much later this evening. We are about to start our next color, green. So we're gonna have all 4 colors working at the same time.
Woo, crazy.
Drop a little tomato comment if you're loving it so far. I love knowing what you guys are thinking as we go along in the project, but yeah, super excited. All right, I will catch you guys in just a little while. Right. Good morning, everyone. We are up early today. I literally haven't even gotten ready. I just threw on some like lip tint and came into film because I cannot stop thinking about this piece. I was working on this until like 12:30 last night. Let's talk about it. So I ended up finishing the front panel at like 10:30 last night, which I was feeling really good about. And to be honest, I hadn't measured it in quite a while. So I was just assuming that it was fitting the same size as the back panel. Silly me for assuming, but I didn't check and I should have looked. And as I added more colors in, I think my tension just naturally got tighter. I'm a tighter tension person anyway, so I should have accounted for that, but I didn't. Once I laid the piece down next to the back panel, it was probably a good 5 inches at least smaller than the back panel. So I was kind of freaking out a little bit. To combat the fact that it was too small, instead of redoing the whole panel, because we just simply don't have time for that, I ended up going on the sides of the front panel and just adding in like 5 rows of single crochet to extend the width of it. So I just have like this whole weird little panel now like that. And on this side, which in this colorway, unfortunately, I feel like it is pretty obvious, but I'm hoping like it'll kind of taper around the sides once I'm actually wearing it. And maybe you won't be able to tell as much. I think if I was using a darker color, this really wouldn't have been too much of a difference, but whatever, we are working with it and we're gonna make it work. But I am a little bit disappointed in that, and if I had more time, I'd probably honestly just make a whole nother back or front panel, either one. The next steps for us is to add a little bit more to the bottom, a little bit to the top, do some of the neckline shaping, and then we need to seam up the sides and add the ribbon cuffs onto the sleeves. And then I hope, if I have time, because this is the last day for us to work on this, I want to actually knit the collar, because I learned how to do a fold over like double collar. I can't remember what it's called. I'll put the name of it here. I learned how to knit this recently and I think it looks so good, and I think it would like give this piece the last little it needs. So anyway, I'm gonna get straight to work. Like I said, I'm not even ready for the day yet, but before I can even do anything, I need to make some kind of progress on here and see something come together for myself. So I think I'll start shaping the neckline. I'm gonna start adding in those double crochet spacings I showed you on the bottom of the back panel. We need to add those to the bottom of this panel and just really start to see something come together so we can do a try on and really see where we're actually at with the piece. Whenever I do this with acrylic yarn, it's way more forgiving. So this number 2 sport weight is really showing a vast difference between single and double crochet, but we're gonna make it work. We're working with it. We'll see what we end up with in the end, but I'm done chatting with the update right now. I just want to get right to work. So let's see where this ends up going today for our last and final day of the project. Okay, so I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit about the neckline shaping for this piece because I'm actually pretty happy with it now in post, but during it I wasn't sure, so I wanted to share my experience. But basically what I did was I started by doing a couple rows across of half double crochet. I just wanted to like as seamlessly blend those double crochets to single crochet as I could. So I figured by having a couple rows of half double crochet, I could kind of, I don't know, blur the lines, if you will. After I did that, I decided it was time to break off for the actual neckline part. So all you have to do when you're doing something like that is put the piece up to you and continuously measure it and see where you would like your neckline to lay at, and then go ahead and make sure you find the exact middle of the piece, mark that with a stitch marker, and count out equal stitches on both sides until you have a very even neckline and you have even spacing for the shoulders on both sides. That's definitely the most important part, so you don't, get a wonky neckline and have an off-centered garment. Once you have your neckline mapped out, you can now work up the sides. So all you're going to do is start working up and down just on the sides of those furthest stitch markers so that you can build up that shoulder. And that neckline area you're just going to leave completely alone. So for this, I ended up switching to double crochet, and I worked about, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 rows total more of the double crochet, and making sure I did those double crochet chain 1 detailings on the sleeve as I talked to you about. And then in between that, I did do 1 row of half double crochet just to break up the holes a little bit. I did also do a little bit of decreasing on the side that lays by the neck, so it was a little bit of a more gradual, softer scoop, and I really just worked this until I laid the piece down and liked where it sat. So it was super easy to figure that out because I was just measuring it up to the back panel after every couple rounds. And once I finished that first side, I just fastened off and went and repeated the same process on the other side. All right, so just a quick update for you. I have the whole neckline all shaped out. I ended up doing those little double crochet chain 1 detailings, which I showed you, and this is how it's looking right now. My assistant is here helping me a lot today. And now I just need to put the bottom ribbing on, which is right here. And so all I need to do to add this is, it looks like it just needs about 1 row of double crochet and then the chain 1 double crochet. And then I can just kind of slip stitch this ribbing on. I know this is kind of like a Frankenstein piece at this point, but actually up here I ended up going from half double crochet into double crochet. So it kind of like gradually ended up being like the back panel, and I think that looks okay. Still a little bit worried about this single crochet siding I put on, but otherwise I think the tomato is looking pretty good. Let's just get this on really quick, and I'll be right back with the try on. Okay guys, moment of truth. Here is our top. I was able to, as I told you, just attach that bottom band. So I put my little stitch markers in the neckline area, and it's the moment of truth. It's time to try it on, see what the fit looks like, see what the length looks like. I'm super nervous because we've had 0 try-ons so far. So here we go. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we can work with this. Looking good. So I like where the tomato's at, and I'm actually super happy with the sleeve. So as you can see, they are water falling off, and that's gonna act as the perfect sleeve length for us, I think. After we seam it together, we'll just add a very little bit of this like ribbing detail to it, and then that should be the perfect sleeve length. So thank goodness for that. I was so nervous that the sleeves weren't gonna be cascading over long enough, and then it looks like the length is really good. It's actually longer than I anticipated, but I'm totally okay with that. Sorry, I'm looking in the viewfinder, but I just want to see it. So happy with that so far. Plenty of room to seam it together and have it be the oversized fit I wanted, which yay. I think also once it's on, there's not a huge discrepancy between the double crochet and single crochet, even in the back. it looks kind of fine. So we'll see once we really seam it up how that all does play together. The only thing I'm not loving right now is the neckline. It looks really big and large compared to our inspo pic, but I actually think that's gonna be okay because once we do that fold over knit collar, anytime you put a collar on anything, it really will kind of pull it in a little bit. And I don't want this to be like too crew neck style. I want just a little bit of neck showing. So I think if I have like, you know, maybe this much of a border band on it, we're actually gonna be totally okay. Is it possible this piece is finally working out? My goodness. Also, it's still super flowy, even though we have so much color changing on the inside. I still have a lot of movement in this piece, so happy about the 2-weight yarn for that. I also do need to do this double crocheting detail on the sleeve band here. So once I seam this together, I'll work one round. You're probably sick of hearing me say this, but I'll work one round of the double crochet chain one and then put the ribbing on. And just the smallest, thinnest ribbing probably will like chain 6, so it's like literally so thin. But the little inspo picture does have it, so I do want to stay consistent with that. I love the way that this detailing looks though. I'm really glad I ended up going for it and not just completely scrapping that idea, because I almost didn't even put that detailing on, but it really brings the piece together, especially with that bottom border on it. Super cute. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy right now. I can't believe it's actually working out this well. Such a good update. So happy about this. I needed this little win for myself. Let's slip stitch this together and start seeing it really come together. So, woo, can't wait. Okay guys, I'm ready to start the final phase of the sweater, which is going to be tackling this neckline. It's looking really intimidating right now because it looks so big, but we are going to get this done. I ended up picking 5mm knitting needles. I feel like this is going to be an appropriate size. I really don't know how to gauge what size I should have grabbed, but I'm going to grab these, and all I'm going to do is go around the neckline, pick up stitches, and start knitting this fold over collar, see what happens. I don't know. I've literally never combined like crochet and knit like this before, so I really have no way of knowing how it's gonna come out, but we're just gonna keep going. And yeah, wish me luck. I'm gonna start picking these up. We are starting this at, see what time? 3 o'clock, exactly. So let's see how long it takes me to knit this ribbing, and I will keep you updated as always. All right, guys, there it is. We did it in 3 days. It is Saturday, currently at 6:30. There it is for proof. And I am finished. That was a little bit too much for 3 days, but I'm so glad it's done now and it's finally out of my system, because I am not kidding you when I tell you this is all I was thinking about for months on end. So really quick, let's recap a couple of things. I know we talked through most of the piece, but I thought I could just go over a few things maybe I'll go back and change in the future or would do differently next time. First one being this ribbed collar. I think it was a great idea in theory, but in actual practice, it's still, I think, a little bit too skinny. Like when I look at it in the viewfinder, I wish it was a little bit thicker, but as I was knitting it, it was looking like it was gonna be thick. So that's just some gauge issues I need to figure out while I'm knitting. No big deal there. However, I do think I would make it a little bit thicker. I think that would be better. It did bring the neckline in a lot though, as I told you it was going to do, and I'm glad it actually did that. The tomato graph itself, I have no notes. I actually think this part of the piece is perfect. I love the colors, I love the size of the tomatoes, and I love the overall size and position of the graph onto the piece. I think that was really good. I'm gonna keep editing that pattern until I love it, because I tweaked it quite a bit while I was making it, and I wanna do a couple more things a little bit differently. So keep your eye out for this pattern, possibly on like a tote bag or something if you're interested. I will have a pattern probably coming out in about 2 weeks for it or so. Other things to note is that this detailing is really good here on the sleeve, I think. However, these ones up here, I should have put them lower because I think they just get lost. Like they get moved to this top of the shoulder, almost by the seam area, which makes sense because that's where I put them. But I do think them lower would have done a better job of showcasing those little details that Anthropologie or whoever made this top put in it. As far as the bottom ribbing goes, I think that was good. Honestly, the back being all double crochet, I think came out fine. I'm most surprised by that. I was really not loving the look when I was putting the two together, as you know, in the side-by-side, laying them out. But now that it's all one piece on, I don't think it's a problem. Let me know in the comments if the opacity is kind of bothering you or irritating you from the double crochet to the single, but I think it worked out. I honestly think it's fine. And then that side paneling we had to add because the graph was too small, that ended up being fine too. You can't even tell once the piece is on that that was ever a problem. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think if I had to rate it, I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. I do wish I didn't have to rush it so much this week. I think I could have tweaked a lot more things and made it maybe a little bit better, but overall, I think it's really cute. I'm still gonna wear it. I think it's definitely wearable and totally fine for that. Like I said, I just think if I'm like really comparing it side by side to the Anthropologie, I wish the collar was a little thicker and a couple other things, but if you weren't comparing the two, I think this on its own by itself is a really cute piece. So that's really all I can ask for. I know this was a challenge to make it look like the Anthropologie one, but at the end of the day, it didn't have to be the exact match for me to love it. So I am happy with it. I'm so excited to hear what you guys think about it. I think that's all my notes, and I think I've rambled on about this piece enough. So I am done talking about it. As I said, I can't wait to hear what you think of it. I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts, which one you like better, if you would have bought the Anthropologie one or if you would have spent all the time and money and stuff to make your own. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, guys, don't forget to give it a like before you leave today. If you have any other pieces that would be considered like a challenge to remake, let me know, because I do have a lot of fun recreating stuff I just see in person, on the internet, whatever. So let me know if there's something else you've seen that you would like me to try to recreate. And other than that, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I put out new videos every Monday, occasionally on Thursdays. They're always crochet or knit related, and we have a lot of fun over here. So I'd love to have you if you'd love to be a part of my community. And other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. I will be seeing you next week for another fun video. And until then, take care. Bye.